welcome back to part two of my interview with Chris Bongar, who's a board member for the International Society of Sustainability Professionals. So what are the most exciting trends that you see or best practices that could be easily adopted elsewhere in the world? What should we be learning from your region?
Okay, that's a very good question. Let me put it this way: when it comes to our day-to-day practice on the consulting side, it is true that what we do here is still emerging. It's still a nascent theme. And when it comes to providing expertise and consulting, advisory services to large corporations, we're still at the very beginning of the curve. So in other words, we have a lot to learn, and there are many guidelines and practices and tools that we can benefit from in this part of the world. And I'll give you an example of that. Our firm represents one of the leading governance, risk and compliance IT solutions provider, a company by the name of Enabler, that, by the way, has been established in North America for about 3 or 4 years now, and they're doing very well. But here in Asia, to offer these types of highly sophisticated IT systems is still a challenge. There are, of course, a number of large companies out there who need these things, but it takes a while for them to mature and to become sophisticated enough to adopt these types of systems. So in that sense, we are behind. Now, what we can offer, I think, and which is very important in the context of the global economic situation, is Asia is still the home of probably half of mankind, and it enjoys the fastest growing growth rates on the planet. Now, that's good and bad. It's good because that offers plenty of opportunity for businesses to grow and access those markets. It's bad because at the same time, this growth, the side effect of this fast-paced growth is there is an environmental impact and social impact that is quite significant. But I would say, and probably if you look at the sustainability as a balance between economic, environmental, and social issues, probably at this stage the balance is very much tilted towards the economic growth at the expense of environmental protection, for instance. But that is changing. Think of middle classes in China, for instance, that aspire to the sort of Western lifestyles and quality of life. And of course, as time passes, these people aspire, to improve their environment and to implement higher quality of life. So that's happening. It's all happening at the same time, which is why I say this is a very complex situation. But I'm very hopeful for the future.
So what, from a professional's point of view, what are the implications for us in terms of what's happening there? Are there certain things that we should be learning about or doing or developing better systems for doing? Anything come to mind?
Well, the first step is what ISSP is doing, which is, I think, an excellent starting point, is to create a community of professionals. Because as I said, we are quite isolated in this part of the world. There's a handful of us who really understand the systemic issues and looking at it from a sort of top-down, holistic manner. We should, I think that's definitely and luckily the kind of tools we have at our disposal nowadays. I mean, this communication exchange, social networks, community groups, professional groups, and that is very, very helpful. We can exchange information. We are here on the ground, so whenever there is, by extension, some US companies willing to enter the Asian markets, we can also help. We have the resources on the ground. We understand also the diversity. This is one main message I would like to project also when it comes to Asia Pacific. I mean, or Asia even. This is a very diverse, very complex environment. You have many different countries. You have language barriers. You have cultural barriers. All the concepts we are talking about here are very much perceived as westernized or Western thinking. So the way to translate that into the local business ethics and communication style. That is one of the challenge we face. But I'm a great believer in diversity, and I think there's no better place than Asia to really measure, what that means. I mean, you go from one country to the next. It's a fascinating experience. We've just opened an office in Japan, for example. Japan is a country I love very much. And it's a world in itself, and it still is the third largest economy, by the way, because China has recently overtaken Japan, and they have also, of course, as we know, experiencing some very severe trauma at the moment. But Japan is an excellent market where sustainability concepts takes on very well, and they have also a very strong, very high-tech base for clean technology applications. So I'm very excited about that. Australia is a completely different kettle of fish. We've worked in Australia for about 2.5 years now. It's already a mature market. It's very much following sort of Western, North American style of doing business. It's a very large continent and offers many opportunities, particularly in the mineral and resource sector. So we've been pretty active down there, quite successfully. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time here to fill us in on what's happening in your region. And thank you so much for being on our board. We so much appreciate it. And we'll be in touch. I hope you'll be able to come to the conference.
Well, my apologies for that. I won't be able to meet you guys in Portland this year. Probably the year after that, but my thoughts are with you, and will certainly follow very closely the developments at ISSB. I'm already in contact with my fellow board members in the region, Unmesh in India, and Mr. Crawford Julian in Australia. I had a conversation with him yesterday, so I'm very close to the efforts, and we will try and support as much as we can the ISSB in this part of the world.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot.